Hi, this is Gil. I'm sorry I can't be with you guys live today, but I'm a brand new grandfather. My daughter delivered her first baby uh, about 18 hours ago right now, and I'm helping out with the family, but I'll be back with everyone live next week. I wanted to record this so you don't get out of sync or out of step. And here we go. What I'm going to talk about today is the magic of metric management. All too often, we sales professionals measure ourselves with numbers, but the numbers we measure ourselves with are numbers that are preceded by a dollar sign. And tragically, that's the worst metric that you can use to measure yourself. What you're going to learn in the next half hour to 45 minutes is how to lay out KPIs, or key predictive indicators, the metrics, the numbers, that you should use to manage yourself proactively. What we're going to discover is that by becoming a metrically managed sales professional, you will increase your year-to-year sales by 36%. You will increase your conversion rates by 21%. And remember my rule: traffic drives conversions, conversions drive leads, and leads drive sales. If you're the owner of your business, by managing yourself and your team metrically, you'll realize a 26% increase in the return on your marketing investment. The retention of your existing customers will go up by 17%, and most importantly, the average order size will increase by 21%. Now, this data came from a study published by the Aberdeen Research Group a few years ago. You see, the problem that we have is that back in the day when this gentleman was a sales professional, the only metric that he managed himself with is the one I mentioned a moment ago: dollars. But because of the process that we use today, the process to find, acquire, and retain customers, we are virtually managing always with lagging indicators. A lagging indicator is a metric, it's a number, but it tells you what happened in the past. Because of this, it's similar, if you will, to driving your car down the freeway at night in a twisty road environment, looking exclusively in the rearview mirror. In other words, if all you do is manage yourself with dollars, you can clearly tell where you've been, but you can't tell where you're going. And that increases stress and causes sales professionals to have undue and unnecessary mistakes. The lagging metrics account for revenue, not the activities that achieve them. And because of the way many of us are deployed, one of the worst metrics that I've documented is the lack of selling time. The average salesperson that we've studied, and we've benchmarked against 400 business-to-business sales forces, spends 14% of the day pursuing new revenue. I've seen some recent studies from other sources that say that number is even lower. So the numbers that you use to measure and manage yourself with are critical. And I'm not going to talk about the dollar numbers. Now, the reason this arises is because none of us went to a college that offered a 4-year diploma. Or I shouldn't say none of us. I recently discovered a gentleman who graduated from a school, I believe it was in Toledo, Ohio, that offered a 4-year program in selling. Because of this, most of us are learning to sell by the seat of our pants, by hook or by crook, by trial and by error. There's no other business function that is managed on that basis. We have to learn to manage ourselves metrically and mathematically. You see, one of the things that frequently happens in sales, and this is why I get a lot of resistance from sales forces when I start talking about activity management, controlling the quantity and quality of activity, aka KPIs, that produce results. 2 plus 2 may not equal 4, and I think that's happened to all of us. You've had a deal that was on the cusp of closing. You knew it was going to close. The decision maker said, hey, this is yours. And you drive out there to pick up the contract, and something happened. 2 plus 2 did not equal 4. Many of us don't have a solid way to manage our forecast. And because we're managing ourselves with these lagging indicators, we're almost always behind the 8 ball. New salespeople are hired, and there is no manual produced or given to them to show them what to do. So in a lack of a precision or precise or environment, they're basically told, do the best you can. Now, sales is not like operations, finance, engineering, customer service. We have to, in my opinion, become more like those departments and those functions. We have to start managing ourselves with metrics. The accounting department of your company has very firm metrics that they measure regularly. Now, while we're talking about managing ourselves differently, I think we need to understand that the buying process has changed dramatically. Your decision makers are no longer as accessible as they were in my early days with IBM. As a result of that phenomenon, there are many salespeople working much harder than they need to. And that contributes to a phenomenon that I've nicknamed sales representative burnout. Excuse me. Companies are blocking our access to these decision makers, and that causes headaches for everyone. Now, here are the beginnings of some metrics that I want you to consider. Opportunity volume represents the number of potential opportunities within your sphere of operation that you can contest. How many potential deals for new business or repeat business or upgrade business are occurring in your market right now? And here comes the tough question, if you think that was tough. How many of those deals are considering you? So our first job is to put metrics around opportunity volume. You see, I feel that the average salesperson underperforms not because of skills, not because of motivation or attitude, but underperformance is a function of the process. If there are 100 deals being done in your city this month for products and services identical to yours, and if you are quoting 5 of those deals, then your opportunity volume is 5%. What would happen to your sales volume, remember 8th grade algebra, if we were to double or triple or quadruple opportunity volume? Now, sales closing ratio reflects your skills. Opportunity volume reflects the degree of TOMA, or top of mind awareness, that you maintain. So if you remember your 8th grade algebra, increasing either one of the sides of that equation will increase sales volume. The easiest thing for us to increase is opportunity volume. So let's make sure that we don't look like the gentleman on the screen because we've hired someone who does not manage themselves with metrics. Sometimes I talk to salespeople about activities and they put this kind of a look on their face. And I've had a lot of pushback from salespeople when I talk about metrics. And what's ironic is the people who push back the hardest are the ones who typically sell the least. Now, I understand that we're in sales because all of us have a little bit of the independent streak in us, and that's good. But regardless of how independent you are, I hope you're in sales to be successful. I hope you're in sales for the reason I got into sales, which was to never have a boss tell me how much I was worth. Now, if you're in sales to build your worth and your income, then you need to know how many meetings you need to have every month to find good opportunities, to quote those opportunities, and to close some of them. We all know and we've all heard about the funnel, and it's critical that we become proactive in managing our funnel without becoming a cheerleader. The cheerleader is the guy or gal that says, when the going gets tough, the tough gets going, and they have cliches and words like that. I don't believe in any of that artificial motivation. I believe that I can motivate myself best when I know what it's going to take to move to my next step of my process. So now I need everyone to take a yellow piece of paper out, yellow paper or whatever. We're going to do some math. Now I'm going to walk through this slowly. I'd like you to just take notes. Every one of you can replay this as often as you'd like. It's on the 10th slide. But I want you to write down your goal for this year. Now it could be revenue, could be profit, it could be new accounts, it could be units. Whatever your goal is, write that down at the top of the page. And then at the line below that, I want you to subtract the known sales that will happen. So for instance, if you're in an environment where a customer buys from you every 2 weeks, subtract what you predict they will produce from your year-end goal. If you're in an environment where some momentum exists and some customers call in and buy, subtract that. Take a hard estimate at the number of deals and dollars or profit or units that will occur between now and the end of the year, whether you're involved or not extensively, or whether you're involved or not proactively. Now, once you've done that subtraction, you now have a line item that I refer to as shortfall or year-end shortfall. Now, divide your year-end shortfall by the average value of a new account. Again, if you measure yourself in units, how many units does a new account bring in, or will it bring in by the end of the year? If it's dollars, how many dollars will it bring in? After you've done that division, you now know how many accounts are needed, new accounts are needed to close your gap between where you are and the year-end shortfall. Now, divide that number by your closing ratio. So if your math comes up that you need 20 new accounts closed by the end of the year, and you close 1/3 of the quotes and proposals that you publish, then if you divide 20 by 0.33, you'll come up with 60 plus accounts or quotes that are needed to produce your number of new accounts. And the number of quotes needed then becomes the benchmark for you to guesstimate how many first meetings you need to produce quotes. One rule of thumb, let me go back one slide, is once you know the number of quotes, let's say it's 60, and let's say that you typically have to make 4 first meetings to get permission for 1 quote, find a qualified solid opportunity, then divide 60 by 0.25, and you're now looking at, if my math's not wrong, a need to make 240 first meetings during the course of the year. Now here's the beauty of this metric. 240 is a number you can understand and you can view. Now, how many first meetings are you currently producing based on your marketing and prospecting efforts? Now we're talking about a metric that you can totally control, because the secret sauce of controlling first meetings is called WORK. There's no magic, there's no voodoo, there's no special phrases that will apply. If you do the work and know the metrics, you'll get the 240 first meetings. Now, the wise salesperson will put a little buffer in there because sometimes things happen. Remember, 2 plus 2 isn't always 4 in our world. If you recall, a few minutes ago I said that the average salesperson spends 14% of their day pursuing new business, and that's a result of a study that we did on 400 sales teams. The average salesperson in those business-to-business sales forces spent 34% of the day doing administrative tasks, 32% of the day waiting and traveling. So you can see that the lack of metric management makes it easy for us to be busy, very busy indeed, but not productive. If you were managing yourself metrically, it would become very clear that you're wasting a lot of time doing non-sales administrative work. And many companies, tragically, have deployed their sales forces in a fashion where that occurs. Now, I refer to those as sales prevention issues. Now, as you're doing your metrics, I want you to identify anything and everything in your world that keeps you from achieving your metrics. Could be sales meetings in the middle of the day. Could be the fact that you're asked to do administrative tasks. I've seen some salespeople actually responsible for assembling systems, especially computer systems that they sold. Between 8 and 5 days a week, your process, your environment must allow you to do nothing but sell. Anything that takes you away from selling reduces your income and your company's profit. The company needs to offload that work, and my rule of thumb is let's put the lowest value work in the hands of the lowest paid employee. And always measure the value of a salesperson based on the revenue he or she brings in. If you don't do that, you'll have an environment where you're inadvertently overpaying for underperformance. And tragically, we salespeople don't want to be overpaid. We just want to have an environment where we can consistently hit the ball out of the park and make very good money. Many managers make the mistake of getting in the way. They practice what I refer to as remote control management. They're not out in the field. They don't really understand what's going on. They wait in the office for the salesperson to come back. Inadvertently, that manager is now becoming a sales prevention issue, him or herself. If you're a good manager, I want you to be out in the field with your team. I want you to make all the calls you physically can make with them. And don't wait for the glory calls. You see, a glory call is a call where the customer has done everything but sign the contract. So now management goes in for the signing, and the customer or the manager perceives that he contributed significantly to the overall game plan. Some metrics to talk to your marketing team about are displayed on this page. 97% of the people that visit your website are anonymous. Now, 84% of new accounts start their new product or new relationship search on the web. If they're anonymous, you can never follow up on them, and that creates a major problem for you as you move forward. I want you to get a website anonymous visitor tool. We'll help you get that. As a matter of fact, if you'd like to get one for free, send an email to my business partner, Mike at gilcargill.com. M-I-K-E at gilcargill.com. He'll send you a piece of software to put on your website which will identify all of the anonymous visitors, at least the companies they come from, and you can then pursue those people. But you'll be shocked at how many new names you get to market to because they're visiting your website, but they never take time to fill out that form that says contact me. Studies have shown that the average visitor to a website spends less than 1 minute on a page. And Google Analytics is a great tool, but it doesn't tell you what companies these people came from. It only tells you how many people visited your website. I'm sorry, I hit the wrong button. Another metric that I'd like you to add to your repertoire is a calendar metric. Take a look at your current calendar. How many scheduled sales practice sessions do you have? Now, a lot of salespeople say, well, I don't need to practice. I practice every time I make a sales call. And I will argue with that and make an example of my favorite sport, which is football. No team wins the Super Bowl that goes the whole season without practice. If you're practicing in front of a customer, which is analogous to practicing during the Super Bowl, it's too late. Practice in the office with a member of your team. Do these practice sessions and help each other become better salespeople. Build a metric so that your marketing footprint is so big that you never miss a sale because someone forgets to call you or you're not involved with the customer when they want to buy or change. I want you to be involved with all the prospects when they're ready to buy. Here's a vital metric, another number to have in place. I want you to look at your funnel or your pipeline. I want you to have 3 times your annual growth goal in that funnel or in that pipeline at all times. When you have achieved that, you're now in a position to consistently hit your goal. The mistake that a lot of us make is we fill the funnel, then we drain the funnel, then we fill it again, and then we drain it. And in between filling and draining, there is some gaps in income and commissions. If you fill the funnel and keep it full, you will never have those gaps and your W-2 will go up. Another metric that I'd like you to manage is how many people do you touch every month? If you go back to the beginning of today's webinar, I talked about the number of relationships that you're maintaining. I define a potential sales relationship as a man or woman who has the ability to make a decision to buy or to actually influence that decision, and he or she thinks of you when they recognize a need to buy. Most of us make the mistake of obtaining top-of-mind awareness, but then we allow it to evaporate. Keep in mind that your customers will abandon information that they don't use with a half-life of about 30 days. So 30 days after you've made the best presentation a human being could possibly make, that customer will have forgotten half of what you shared with them. 30 days from then, they will have forgotten half of the half. 30 days from then, they will have forgotten half of the half of the half, and so on. Ultimately, they've completely forgotten about you. That's the tragedy that I want you to avoid. Don't allow yourself to become a seagull manager. In other words, you swoop in, make a little bit of a mess, and leave. Now, if you are managing employees, the seagull philosophy applies to you. If you're managing accounts, the same applies to you. Consistent, predictable activity is the key. Now, let's take a look at some more metrics. How many first meetings do you need to have in your calendar at all times to consistently produce new revenue to meet or exceed your goals? A first meeting is defined as a first meeting on the phone and or a first meeting face-to-face. The more first meetings that you have, the more new accounts and new orders you'll have. How many first meetings are in your calendar right now? Now, another caveat is that in order for it to qualify as a first meeting, it must occur within the next 30 days. So again, how many first meetings are in your calendar and need to be followed up on? Do you do written account plans? Do you have sales planning sessions? Between 8 and 5, how much time is dedicated to selling? Now, without these metrics, you just can't see the future. Without metrics, you are hanging by a thread, and I want you to inspect your metrics regularly. So I'd like you all to put some goals down at the end of today's sessions. And your goals should sound like this. Based on what I've learned today, I will keep X number of first meetings in my calendar at all times. Based on what I learned today, I will send out Y number of postcards, prospecting postcards, or prospecting emails. Based on what I learned today, I will invite and make sure 10 people come to my next webinar. Manage yourself with those kinds of messages, and your life's going to become so much easier. You see, the tragedy that I see all over the place is salespeople saying, "Hey, Gil, next year, boy, I'm going to work harder." Well, I hate hearing that because I can't measure it, one. And two, when you say you're going to work harder, that infers you ain't working that hard right now. And if you're on my payroll and you tell me you're going to work harder next year, then I have to rethink paying your next salary check, because why should I pay for less than hard work? The same applies to the cliche of "I plan to work smarter." Come on, gang. Nobody leaves half of their brain at home. All of us are talented. All of us are hardworking. We just don't have a process. And candidly, the lack of a process and the lack of metrics makes you work harder than you need to. If your company doesn't have a CRM system, get one. I don't care whose you use, but selling in today's world without proper implementation of sales automation and marketing automation will make you work far harder than you ever need to. You'll lose more revenue than you'll ever believe. CRM systems help one salesperson impact his or her market as if he were she were 5 or 6 salespeople. Productivity goes up, stress goes down, income goes up. It's a good thing. But again, I'm non-denominational regarding whose you use, but fighting the sales war today without a CRM system would be analogous to going into a jungle battlefield without a machine gun. Sort of crazy. You know, you can flog yourself, you can be crazy about it or whatever, but that doesn't help. Make a commitment to change a small thing. And I passionately hope each of you will start measuring the number of first meetings that you have in your calendar at all time. Make sure that you keep to your agenda. Don't change your priorities. That will cause failure and procrastination. Well, I'll do this next week because this week I'm going to change something. Lowers morale. It's horrible. I want each company to have a playbook. How many approach calls should you make per day, per week, or per quarter? How many presentations should you make per day, per week, per quarter? Same goes for quotes and proposals. Do you have written sales procedures, written policies, and are you tracking your KPIs? Expect your lead generation to go up when you're doing it systematically. More about that in one of our later webinars. Manage with your leading indicators. Dollars aren't leading indicators. I talked about driving by looking in the rearview mirror, and if you do that too often, you're going to look like the guy on the screen. Make sure your goals are related to growth and are measurable and can be metrically identified. Don't say things like, I'm going to grow my account base. Say, I'm going to grow my account base by 25 accounts. Always put a measurement in there because that's something you can hang your hat on. Remember my criticism of the work harder, work smarter role. Make sure that you understand your current numbers, how many calls you're making, what things look like into the future. I want you to understand what the competition looks like in that geography, what the economy's like, and what the past performance in that geography or that list of accounts has been. Do you need help from the staff? Do you need training? What are your goals, and do you have a wish list of what you're going to go get? Understand what happened last year before you build a metric plan for this year. If you missed your goals, why'd you miss them? Even harder to answer is, if you made your goals, why'd you make them? That's right, some of us meet or exceed our goals regularly, and when I ask them why they do that, I get comments like, I guess I'm lucky, great territory, I worked harder. You see, the problem with all of those soft answers is there's no metric to hang your hat on. Without a metric, you're always going to be behind the eight ball. In the toolkit that we sent out, you'll find a win-loss postpone form, and I'd like you to implement that on a monthly basis. You see, once an opportunity is forecasted, you either win it, lose it, or it's postponed. And always look at the year-end shortfall. I'd like you to understand what your numbers look like on a month-to-month basis, and how many leads are being generated, how many leads are being nurtured, and track those. Lay it out on a graph. The more leads that you're nurturing, the more relationships you have. The more relationships you have, the more often you're invited to compete. Without a plan that's metrically designed and communicated, that is reviewed frequently, that holds yourself accountable, where your KPIs can be adjusted, your plan will be worthless. Be willing to be honest with yourself, because you're only tricking yourself if you don't operate on a metric basis. So I've laid out a lot of ideas and look forward to hearing from each of you about how you've implemented them. Again, accept my apologies, but I hope you understand how happy we Cargills are with a new young lady, 1.5 days old right now, in our family, and the hustle and bustle that goes with bringing my daughter and her daughter home from the hospital. Have a great one, and I wish you good luck and good selling. Thank you so much for attending today, and I'll see you next week.